Welcome back. I am Paige Elizabeth, and this is Creating Consciousness. I have a unique situation tonight. I've decided to go live with a former student of mine, a good friend. I'm a big fan of his daughters. Um, this is not something that I like. I don't specifically coach on this type of problem that he has. Like romantic dynamic or just focusing on the narcissistic dynamic. Like I don't coach specific to that, but it's so pervasive. And, in my coaching, we do touch on that because of interpersonal interactions and communications and self-mastery, right? So wanting to be in a space where you don't feel like you're the punching bag or the victim of, or, just you feel like you're in control of your life, right? And
Mm.
so many people at one point or another find themselves in this type of dynamic. And I get a lot of flack when I say, like, your higher self kind of brings this person to you if you weren't getting the subtle hints. And they're like, I don't think my higher self would bring me a narcissist or bring me this kind of person. And it's like, well, you're not getting the subtle hints.
Yeah. Oh, they were all last year. It was the hints were screaming in my face, and I definitely um, I'm listening now for sure.
Yeah. So Tim is trying to break away from not just a relationship, but the patterns that, how would you put it? Like made you addicted to it or the push pull behind it? Like,
Yeah, definitely the addiction for sure.
so why don't you kind of, in a nutshell, tell a little story about you and her and where you're at now?
Um, about a year and a half ago, I was very locked in to my higher purpose. I had a great routine at work. I was making a lot of money. I was very content and on track and focused. And someone entered into my life when I was locked in, and naturally, I was becoming this new version of myself, and I was about 6 months into that process after struggling for many years with just the same patterns reoccurring and falling back into those patterns and then getting out of that pattern. And it was this has been an issue my entire life. And I've always attracted a very specific type of person because of my wounds and my unhealthy patterns. And when I first met this person, intuitively, my higher self, whatever was uh, calling to me to push this person away, and I successfully, after a couple of weeks of hanging out with them, I was like, nope. I started falling off my routine again. I'm getting out of the this healthy workflow, and I just knew that I needed to create some space. And this particular person was looking for somebody to just move in really quick and have them take care of them. And at first, the first couple of weeks, I was like, oh, she's great, she's bubbly, and she loves me. And then I something in my gut was telling me, no, wait, I'm falling off track. I'm making less money. I'm not focused. I'm distracted. And then some other old habits that I had gotten under control at that point reared their ugly head. And I just knew I needed to create some space. And just within 1 week of reducing the text messages and not answering the phone calls and not inviting her into my space, she vanished like a magician. And yeah, didn't hear from her for a while. So
Let me ask you, when it got started, who kind of dictated the speed? Was it yours or her?
she, after about a week, She's like, "Oh my God, you're the man that I've been looking for, everything I've ever wanted. Um, can I move in?" Right. And she had a little baby, and I love babies. And she was very young and didn't have a job and needed somebody to take care of her. And at first, I was like, "Oh man, this could be great. I need to stay. I could use a stay-at-home mom, and she could cook and clean, and I could focus more on work, and she could help out with my two kids." But the yeah, whatever energy was telling me to run, I listened to it. I stayed strong. I got back on track with work. Oh yeah, she just, after I told her, no, you can't move in. You probably won't move in for a while. Like, I'm a lot older than you, and I know that people that move too fast, it's not a good thing. So I created some space, and within a week, she just disappeared, and I didn't hear from her for a long time. I got back on track. I stayed strong. I didn't fall back into old cycles. Continued to make good money, and pursue my this man that I was trying to become.
But she directed the speed. It was she was pushing things.
Yes, yeah. Sorry to answer your question. Absolutely.
Yeah. So just for context, and like I said, I've known Tim a long time. He used to be one of my yoga students. When I did teach yoga, I was very keen on their constitution, a person's constitution, as well as if I could, I wanted to do their chart. It was really important to the teacher to understand a lot of the energetic dynamics that went on inside them. Because as a teacher, I ought to be able to guide them. If they're super, sedentary and set in their ways, then that's going to require a different type of, set of actions for that student than if they're like Tim and they're really vibrant and full of energy and don't sleep a lot and and Tim is in the Vedic tradition, Tim is what's known as Vata dominant. So Vata dominant people, they they struggle the hardest with I guess grounding and committing, right? So because it's ruled by air and ether. So if you're a Vata dominant person, you're kind of up in the air, you walk on your toes, your head is really forward. And these
Hold on,
people
hold on one second. Let me put my cat outside.
I'll keep talking. These people tend to not be very grounded, they're not very committed, not because they don't want to be, but because it's a weakness in their constitution. So they have to take certain actions to be more grounded, more focused, more disciplined, etc. The other thing is, I was familiar with Tim's chart, and Tim's chart is mutable dominant, which doesn't help. Typically, there's a correlation. When you're studying these things, you'll usually see an overlap. But in his chart, he's also, like I said, mutable dominant. Mutable energy is the same. It's that air quality. It's highly flexible, but hard to grasp, hard to commit, hard to direct. Um, Very little earth in his chart to keep him focused and grounded. And these types of people who are Vata dominant or mutable dominant, they struggle the most with the addictive tendencies, obsessive tendencies. Pisces rules escapism. Gemini's that air quality that doesn't come out to ground. Virgo, they did a study and they found that this is not about you, Tim, but they found that of all the serial killers, they were all mutable, every single one, and the highest amount was Virgo. So, that mutable energy can be just really tough to manage as an individual, right? So I say that as a caveat because it's there's we come in with certain challenges, right? And that's definitely one of Tim's that he has had his whole life. And so with the back and forth and the back and forth and the addictive tendencies, that's nothing new to you, correct?
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
So, this is someone who, if you want to jump in and share your history, I mean, you're not like a junkie, but like there's an addictive mindset. right? And it's very obsessive. It has a very difficult time being in the gray and kind of being abstract with things. It's like all or nothing
Yep.
kind of
Self-control
mentality. Yeah,
is an
it's
issue also.
very like flip-floppy, don't do nuance or balance very well. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just wanted to preface with that this is kind of an inherent thing that people with these traits do struggle with. If when I look at someone's astrology or I read their physical constitution, I can see where it's coming from, a lot of these tendencies. Um, and so not to say that other people can't find themselves in these shit relationships, but that particular what would you call it? Those tendencies, I guess, are just more prevalent in those energies. So we've had a lot of talks, and Tim, what do you think? Like, share with me and the audience, be pretty candid in terms of like, you think you're over it, you're done, you want nothing to do with her, and then what?
Let's say in the last year and a half, I probably kicked her out of my house once a month. And at first, so after the first couple of weeks, I met her, and my higher self or my gut was telling me to create space, and then she just disappeared. She didn't like the space. She ended up moving in immediately with someone else, and then that didn't work, and she moved in with someone else. And now fast forward um, 8 months, 9 months, and she resurfaced at a time where I had this back injury, and the back injury, I was sitting around a lot. I was bored. I started smoking pot again. I was very bored. Couldn't really like walk that much. My leg was like just I'd lost functionality in my leg, and then she kind of just slipped in at the right moment. Called me randomly. I was like, I had been sitting around for 2 months, letting this back injury heal, and I was like, yeah, just come on over. And she just didn't leave. Kind of just like pushed her way in, and I was already back in my old habit of just smoking pot all day and not working due to the back injury. And she also was a heavy cannabis smoker. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Just come on in. And she moved in and didn't end up leaving.
And how did you contribute to that? Walk us through a little bit of your own, like, I don't want to say weakness, but like,
She was very young and very beautiful, and she
well, I
had
don't
a
agree
baby.
that she was beautiful, but whatever.
I thought she was just absolutely adorable. So, and then having the baby, I hadn't raised the baby. My kids are 10 and 14, and I was like, oh, baby energy. Like, the baby was a distraction for me, and anything that would distract me from sort of facing my own wounds was I that was a big challenge for me. So the fact that she was young and beautiful, didn't work, didn't have a job, and then she had a baby on top of it, I just got totally distracted by these two beautiful human beings. And I was already back into my pattern of just being lazy and not progressing in life and smoking lots of cannabis and just sitting around dull and depressed and bored. And yeah, she caught me at the very perfect time for
Well, of course she did. But walk us through as you've been pulling away lately, and you've really been trying to like not let her back in, right? How long has it been since you've let her back in?
I want to say December was when she actually was living with me. But since January, February, and March, she was pretty much just like here every day. Um, but I mean, I kicked her out in December. I kicked her out in November. I kicked her out in October. Pretty much
No, but I
once a
mean,
month.
like, as far as like letting her be communicative with you, see you, how long has that been?
A year and a half.
No, 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 no. When's the last time you hung out with her?
Oh, last time I hung out with her was about a month ago.
Okay. So, and since then, you've been really trying to like give yourself permission to go through like the withdrawals.
Yes, yes. These particular withdrawals were some of the worst. I mean, I was addicted to when I got back from the military, got out of military. I had a lot of unresolved and unprocessed and um, issues from deployment, and then which led me to alcohol and hard drugs very briefly, and a gambling problem. So I've triumphed over some really nasty addictions, but this people addiction was probably the worst. This trauma bond or whatever you want to call it.
And that's because when we talk about it, because he'll, Tim reaches out in moments of like, I won't give in, which is good.
And bless you, Paige, for answering.
It's the validation that we're seeking, right?
Mm,
That dopamine hit. We think, oh, if I just one more time, I can get them to fill in the blank, right?
mm.
And the body doesn't want to go through that withdrawal. It wants to have that, whatever that is from them that you're seeking, that you think you're going to get, but you never actually get. But then,
No,
right?
it's a pattern of oh, I finally have it. I feel good. The dopamine hits, and then we'll hang out for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then the crash happens, and then we're both just looking at each other like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when I typically intuitively say, wait, this is not conducive for my mental or spiritual health. I usually always fall off work track every time she moves back in or we get back together. I get completely distracted, and as long as my bills are paid and I have some money in the bank, I fall victim to. It's just like a drug. But it's even worse because it's like um, it's mental addiction. It's yeah, validation. Like drugs don't validate you, but a person will.
But
And
but they're both distractions either way, whether it's a drug or it's a person, it's a distraction,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because when you're going through that withdrawal, that is an unresolved piece of you.
Yes.
And you're in pain, like your inner child is looking for your attention, and you're like, how do I get out of this mess? How do I, distract from this discomfort that I'm in? Maybe
Yep.
I should hook up with her again or whatever, right? And then the cycle continues.
Mm,
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
And it's tough. Like, and as we've talked, it's like there's power struggle and then there's like self-love. And like you never win a power struggle. If someone shows up and they are that thing, good luck. They showed up to show you, I am never going to give you what you want.
Yes. There's even a relief just talking about it now because I'm still kind of going through the withdrawals.
Mhm. But
Yeah.
we anytime we outsource our needs like that, someone shows up to be like, I got you, and then they just weaponize it over and over and over again. Which
Mm,
is why I tell people, if you want to stay out of a power struggle, don't look for validation from the outside. The second you say, "Oh, I want someone else's approval," you're screwed.
yep.
We never seek validation from the people who can or will give it to us. Tim, I think you're amazing. And you're just like, yeah, that's nice, Paige. Thanks.
Yeah. Appreciate it. um, it's what I learned also is that I've been avoiding dating for the last 10 years, ever since my last marriage. And it was the same dynamic, trauma bond. It was so ugly and brutal, and I finally broke away. And I just didn't date for 10 years. She was my first girlfriend. I had one girlfriend for a couple months, but she was actually good for me. Here's the crazy part is when I first met Bailey, after 2 weeks, I pushed her away. She disappeared. I met somebody really quality, held me accountable. She was very good for me
You're
spiritually.
like,
And
this is boring.
exactly, that's exactly what happened. I got bored and I self-sabotaged it. I don't know what, something inside me just, all of a sudden I woke up one day and I was like, not interested anymore.
Mhm.
And then very shortly after that is when Bailey resurfaced. And I immediately like, oh yes, 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 move in, yeah, or come over, move in, dopamine rush, intensity. um, and I looking back on it now, like this is one of the reasons I never got into another relationship, because I avoided the, I was just in a space of avoidance, and I knew that every time I would attract just the wrong person, and then I feared the same pattern from happening. So for the better part of 10 years, I just did not engage with women. I lived alone. I learned to be happy alone. I wasn't really interested in a sexual relationship anymore. And because I just intuitively knew that there was going to be some sort of entanglement there. And I knew, and now I know that like this wound, whatever the wound is, it was not healed yet. And this was just a screaming lesson, a very, very harsh lesson that I had to learn in order to move to that next level and to grow into this new version, a healed, fully healed Tim, where I actually could create a space for the right woman to come in and have a loving relationship that's not bonded through old wounds and addictions and unhealed trauma, pretty much.
Yeah, I read a long time ago there was a study done in Spain and they found that the opposite of addiction is actually connection.
Hmm.
And so if you want to heal addiction, you have to heal the connection with yourself first. And then you'll be able to actually be in connection with others. And it changes that brain chemistry. So because dopamine is just a way to try to numb it out. We're people aren't so much addicted to the thing as much as they're trying to avoid pain. So I kept reminding Tim, you got to focus on you. You got to focus on your own challenge. You got to focus on the self-love part. You got to pull it back in. Like, why do you care what she thinks? Stop outsourcing it. Stop outsourcing it. Who cares what
It's
she
it's wild, like what my mind tries to construct in order to fall back into that pattern. Like, I'm lonely. Oh, she actually was my soulmate. Oh, the relationship wouldn't have been that bad if I just did this, this, and this. And
Yeah.
oh, I didn't listen to her, and I didn't, it's like I tried coming up with like every reason in the book to try to fall back into it. And then I had to do something like very dramatic, like get the police involved because of something that she did. And I just knew that I knew that had I got the police involved, she would never talk to me again. And it worked. So it got so bad, the addiction and the pattern and the bond was so bad that I had to do something extreme to to get out of it. It's like like an addict going to rehab, moving to a different state for 60 days, which I've done. I did for 30 days. I moved to California to break a drug addiction, and that was, I just knew something extreme had to happen, or else I would have just kept coming back and coming back, and she also kept coming back too.
And that's the thing about like addiction, it's like a lot of those 12 step programs or 12 step, right?
Yeah.
They 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 operate from a space of resistance, which in my experience, resistance always swings back to sabotage. But if you're in a space of just choosing yourself and loving yourself, you're not resisting anything. You don't want it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's a different framework.
And she is just as addictive as I was. Like, even after I called the cops on her and she thought she was going to go to jail, and they ended up taking to jail, and nothing ended up happening. She came over the very next day and spent the night the very next day. It's like, so this was such a traumatic event for her and such a traumatic event for me because I didn't, I, you know, I'm blown away that I actually went through and did it. She ended up coming over the night after that. And then we hung out a couple other times the following week until I finally was just like, I called the cops on you and I almost like sent you to jail. Like, this is not healthy and stop coming over. And but I just kept letting her. That's the crazy part. And then now, yeah, she found somebody else within a couple of days later and just ended up moving. She's already moved in with this guy like 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks since they met.
Well, and when you're healing from a situation like this, it's like, I mean, I'm not going to label her a narcissist. We'll just label this a power struggle.
Yeah.
Anytime you're pulling away from a power struggle, relationship, or dynamic, it has all the same symptoms of that of walking away from narcissist, right? So there's the rumination that you do, constantly replaying it over and over in your brain, the situation, a lot of the bargaining, like, oh, if I could have done this or this or this or this or this, and you just like the chronically self-doubting yourself. And the thing is, in order to move away from it completely, you have to just continue to choose yourself. And it doesn't feel normal. It feels incredibly foreign, very uncomfortable, because your body, your nervous system is like, I want that thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's just poison. Um,
Had she not found some new person to fill that void, she would have continued to message me. But she went on a dating app and found some guy that was like, "Oh, I think you're adorable. Move in with me."
well, and
It's
I
like,
remember you asking me, like, will she be different with him? No.
I and even subconsciously, I was like, I hope this fails so that she would come back to me. Like that's how sick it is. And now after some time, like 3 weeks or so passed, it's starting to fade away. But I was just blown away that she would continue to come back, and I would continue to let her, even after that whole event with the police happened. And
Well, it's like
that's
a
when I knew
gambling
that there
addiction.
was.
You're like, this time I'm going to win. No, you're not.
Oh yeah, so going back to what I was saying before, like subconsciously I was like, oh, I hope this relationship fails so that she comes back to me. I could try to make it work again.
Thing is, like, our minds and bodies always work in cahoots, right? So, like, if our body is feeling that withdrawal, it's going to signal to the brain thoughts to try to pull it back in, and vice versa,
Yes.
right? And so it's like you can't really trust yourself
No.
in that withdrawal process, or that pulling away and setting boundaries process, because it doesn't make sense to your body and brain. It just doesn't. What makes sense is to try again. It's like, I remember when I was assaulted, and it was someone I had known for 15 years. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. This is really interesting, because my instinct was to figure out, what's wrong? Are you okay? Why are you acting like this? Like, that was my instinct as the friend. But I had to like override that and be like, bitch, get out of here. Like, stop worrying about him. He's trying to kill you. Get out of here. But like my relationship to him, a 15-year relationship, my instinct was, what's going on? Let's figure it out and help him. And in that moment, I wasn't safe, right? And so I had to really override my instincts. And it's like, that's how conditioned we become when we're in these situations. We're like, oh, if I just try one more time, that's what feels appropriate. This time it'll work. It's not that bad, right? And as you go through the withdrawals, you're like, she's not that bad. What?
I started like I started thinking about all the amazing times we had. Like, oh, and I was going through photos, and my oldest daughter is like, I it was yesterday or something. I was like, yeah, I'm glad she's gone. I can't wait to like find somebody that's right for me, and not be in this traumatic relationship that is nothing but chaos and intensity and the same cyclical pattern over and over. And my daughter's like, yeah, you're not inviting Bailey back. It's never gonna happen. If she's like, I'm gonna have to,
I told her to
you
text me
know,
if it does.
she goes, yeah, let's find somebody like normal. And she's like, I can see it. And she kept giving me all this advice. And I was like, where did you learn this from? And she's like, I learned it from you, Dad. She's like, this is a great learning lesson for me. So that I never enter in this sort of dynamic. And hearing a 14-year-old say that has really like made me proud. Because I've been very transparent with her, and hey, this is the type of relationship I'm in right now. This is how addiction works. Um, you have to be very careful with who you invite in, and it just so happens, one of this guy that she's friends with, that she's just friends with, he's like telling her he loves her after not even a month of knowing her. And I'm like, oh, geez. I was like, you need to create some space, create some boundaries. And she's like, yeah, I had to like tell him to stop calling as much. And not that, he was going to end up in the same situation, but it was a red flag for her. And she's like, wow, it's kind of crazy how that stuff can happen so fast. And yeah, I was very proud of her for being very aware.
Yeah, if you want to be in power struggle, outsource your worth. And you will find yourself addicted to people's opinions, addicted to their validations. Like,
And what's so crazy is I was just about to ask you, oh, she's probably in a power struggle with this new guy, right? Like it even matters. Like I'm still these thoughts of curiosity. Like earlier today, I was like hoping that it didn't work out so that she would. I think I already mentioned that. Like it was just it's so wild how the addiction process works. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I hope it really doesn't work out. I hope he was like me when I first met her, and he pushes her away and sees like the feels that type of energy coming on. And but I was hoping that he did, just so that she would come back to me. But I have a whole men's team. I have a therapist now. I have Paige. I have one of the girl that was actually right for me is I'm talking to her now, but on a very friend level, and she says all the same stuff as you, Paige, and you two would get along great. You guys would be great friends. She's like Tim. She rattles off the same information that you do, or not, just not the same, but obviously like in the same ballpark. And the fact that like, and I told her like, hey, I self-sabotaged us, and I got involved with this girl, and she forgave me, and she's like, I just care about you, so you can talk to me about her if you want. Like the girl that I left for Bailey, like is open enough and mature enough to and cares enough and sees the toxic nature of the whole situation. And I've been calling her every night, like, hey, this is what's going on, and she's just coaching me through it. And I've never called so many people in my life. Like my mother calls me every day now. I call this ex-girlfriend. I call the men on my men's team. I think for like the first 3 weeks, I was calling you every night, Paige. So it's a lot of good has come out of it. I'm moving towards the man I'm supposed to become, this healed man that can attract a quality woman. I'm building healthier relationships with people I know that I just never reached out to. And what's ironic is like I got kicked off the men's team a year ago because I didn't fulfill their one rule, which is you have to call a man back within 24 hours. If he calls you, that's their only rule. And that's what I got kicked off for. And now I'm calling. If one doesn't answer, I'm just going down the list and going down the list. And so I'm starting to see the benefits, and be grateful of like the healthy repercussion of this extremely unhealthy relationship.
well, again, it's hard to overcome because there's an undercurrent, right? The lifelong pattern of that dopamine hit, that distractive behavior, right? And we don't want partners that are distractions. We want partners that actually can hold space for us to be authentic and vulnerable and
Mm.
create safety. We don't want them to just be this object that, kind of erases our pain temporarily and going to magnify it greater the next day. And a lot of people are addicted to this because of their upbringing. It wasn't stable, right? That instability creates that need for us to create it as adults. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of discipline to rebuild that in the brain, but it starts inside of you. Like you're never going to find it external,
Mm.
right? This is an internal process of, peace has nothing to do with your circumstances and everything to do with how you relate internally. So if you can't maintain equilibrium in the midst of tremendous chaos, even internal chaos, you're never going to be able to maintain a healthy relationship because you're just going to project it.
Hold on once.
So it's important to be mindful of this and to do that work if you truly want a healthy relationship. Otherwise, you're just going to continue to attract opportunities to practice this in relationship as opposed to practicing the healthy stuff. And so, I think the reason most people don't have healthy dynamics is not technology, it's not feminism, it's not any of these things. It's just really just boils down to the tools and the willingness.
Oh, that was my neighbor. The
Okay.
cat must have got out of the garage.
Oh,
That's, I
that
didn't even know the
cat.
garage was open.
I was just continuing talking and I just said, I don't personally believe that relationship sucks these days because of technology or feminism or patriarchy or anything. They all don't help. But I think at the end of the day, it really boils down to people having the tools and being willing to do the work. That's
Yeah,
it.
this technology thing is kind of crazy because we were playing this cat and mouse game where she was looking at my TikTok profile, and you can see who views it. So she would look at it and then block my profile, and then I'd see it, and it would trigger something in my head, and I'd be like, all these this the wave of emotion and the craving would start again, and then she would unblock me and look at it again, and then block me, and I'm like, and I even like this was like a couple weeks ago, like when it first happened, I created a new TikTok so I could do the same thing to her, to look at her profile so that she looks at mine, and then I friend requested her and she blocked me. And I gotta give her some credit though. She's staying strong on not messaging me, but it's only because she has someone else to fill that void. And what's I you know aside from the police that I got involved to try to sever that connection, I messaged the boyfriend. I felt so bad. I found him on Facebook, and I was like, "Listen, man, you're dealing with an extremely damaged person, and you need to be very careful. I know you have like two little kids, and you look like a healthy, stable man with a good job, and she's she's kind of dangerous. So I gave him the gist of it to warn him, and he said, "Oh, I'll give her the benefit of the doubt." And I just left it at that. And I was like, "All right,
There's no point in meddling.
yeah." I
Honestly, if you want to get somebody back, you know what the best thing to do is?
not respond.
Get out of the way.
Mm. Oh, get out of the way. Let them.
Get out of the way.
Oh yeah. I told you that I messaged him, and you're like, rotten fruit falls on its own. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Yeah, get out of the way. I mean that's how it'll get back to them sooner. The more you meddle and the more you play into the dynamic, the more entangled you get and the more that falls on your shoulders. So if you really just want them to just fall flat, just get out of the way.
Mm.
Pull back completely and be done. you know?
It's so much easier said than done.
We could have, look, going on a diet is a power struggle. Trust me, we could take all of these components and be like talking about weight loss. Like it's,
That's true.
you know, like, pull back, shut the door, don't eat the ice cream, be done,
That's so
go to
funny.
bed.
Yeah, I mean, I was even I've been smoking cigarettes lately, which is I gave up cigarettes a long time ago, years and years and years ago, and um,
And see, like I
I
told you, every time you have a withdrawal, that is an opportunity. You don't want to resist your withdrawals. You want to be bring them on so that
yeah.
I can show myself I'm stronger than this addiction.
Mm. So I would buy a pack of cigarettes, I'd smoke two of them, and then I would get frustrated at myself, and then I would break the pack in half and all the cigarettes, or run them underwater and throw them in the trash. I couldn't smoke them. And then the very next day, like the next morning, one of those withdrawals would hit, and I'd go to the store and buy a pack of cigarettes again. I'm like, I think I've wasted $40 in the last like 3 or 4 days. And
Because
yeah,
withdrawals
and then
pass. Withdrawals pass.
and I noticed it's linked to food also. Like if I start to get hangry or hungry, and I'm not, my appetite is suppressed by the sadness or the depression or the feeling I have, and I'm not eating right. It's just another, and lack of sleep. That is just, man, it's like this whole cocktail of my body just trying to get me to
Oh,
get the
100%.
fix. Yeah.
I even talk about that in my book. Like it is so hard to create change. You need as much ammo going in as possible. Eat
Mm.
right, get sleep.
Yeah.
Like, make
I
sure
bought
your
some natural sleeping
yeah,
pills. So like
make sure your
as soon as
circumstances are stable.
as soon as we get off the phone, I'm going to bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock max. And then I try to get as much sleep as possible. Like today was great. I felt great. I went out and worked all day. But I forced myself to go to bed at 10 o'clock. I fell asleep at 10:30, and I slept for 8 hours. And I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking about her and having that withdrawal. And I like would go downstairs, I'd eat a banana or something, and I'd do some breathing exercises. I'd put on a headset and listen to some calming music. And I was like, man, I'm like waking up in the middle of the night withdrawing. And
Mhm.
I considered like, oh, maybe she's like on her TikTok. If I play cat and mouse again, I'll get some validation from her. I just want her to look at my profile so I can. And it's when she looks at my profile, I get this soothing sensation. It's like
There's that
this
dopamine.
is this is so unhealthy.
And
But
I've told you myself a few times that every time you have a moment, you're up against that resistance point, choose yourself.
yeah,
Choose yourself. And this goes for anything. You're struggling to get over anything in life, make any change, choose yourself.
yeah. Last week, the I woke up. I had a nightmare about her, and she was like, I had a nightmare that she was dating like a couple different guys, and it was so like a gut punch, and I couldn't go back to sleep. So I like went to the gym and I sat in the sauna for half an hour just to get that feeling away from me. And I was like, okay, I have so many different tools now. I can go
And
eat
that's
something. I can go sit in the sauna, go to the gym. Like I have to find some sort of an out, take a cold shower. That worked one night.
and this is where Tim doesn't hear me very well because what he needs to do to make the withdrawals go weaker, faster away is to connect with his inner child.
Mm.
The connection work will actually completely dissolve because that's actually where the pain's coming from. She's just
Now,
she's just a symptom.
now my friend, my friend that's similar to you has lots of insights. She said you need to call your mother, and that is going to help repair your inner child. And I was like, well, she doesn't give me advice. We'll call and talk about the weather for 5 minutes, and then she's like, oh,
No,
okay.
Mom, you need to talk to your own inner child. You need this when we're young, And we learn from our environment, right? So like if we want dad's attention and dad failed to give it to us and we feel rejected, in order to survive, we learn to reject ourselves. So we mirror their behavior and then we grow up with these pain patterns,
Hmm.
constantly attracting that thing that we're trying to run away from, which is that self-rejection or self-abandonment. And
Hmm.
so that's what needs to be repaired.
Hmm. Oh, I'm so it's grateful to hear you say that because I'm so present with my own kids. I'm like, oh, I don't, and I made a promise to myself because my dad's an alcoholic. He was
They'll grow up
drank
with
for
mommy wounds, don't worry.
well, at least I fulfilled my part as dad. There's no daddy issues.
We know
Um,
your daughters prefer you. That they've made that very clear in the few years I've known them. They definitely like dad more. But
I told myself, I'm like, I will not
But
let my kids
see,
have any
even
daddy
there, like
issues.
even there, I see every time we have this conversation, your brain drifts. You don't want to go to the child work. That is where you're going to heal
Hmm.
the inner child. You
So
have
now, what do? I speak to it directly. Like,
So there's two things that we need to do, right? And I have broken this down for you before. With the self-love practice, number one, any part of yourself that you've decided is unworthy or unlovable, you're going to embrace that. So, okay, I am an addict, but I'm still lovable and I love myself anyway. And you're going to
ah,
practice that, right?
yeah.
Embracing parts of yourself instead of rejecting those parts of yourself. The reparenting is where, and this is where, like, when you go through the withdrawal, that's really the inner child screaming for attention. That's a great opportunity to go in and repair that part. And so what you do is when you're in those moments of pain, it's perfect because the subconscious is now present. And so you
Hmm.
can go, okay, what age am I that I'm feeling this pain? Where's this coming from? You'll get an age. You'll get a picture of yourself at 2 or 7 or whatever, and then
Huh.
you go in and you talk to him. And the verbiage that I use that works for me, and you could play around with it and figure it out, is like I go to her and I figure out what she's feeling, whatever that pain point is, the verbiage, whatever she needs to express. And in the beginning, your inner child might be like, "Fuck you! You've been leaving me hanging for 40 years. I don't want to talk to you. Just be prepared." But keep at it until he's willing to talk to you. Because sometimes they are really shut down. They're very angry. But once you finally get them talking, figure out what it is they are sad over. And then you, as the adult, you're like, let's say it's rejection. Bro, I am so sorry I rejected you at age 5. I
Hmm.
had no idea what I was doing. I will never reject you again. And then you kind of visualize whatever it is they need in that moment and you give it to them. And then
Hmm.
you make a promise to them and yourself that every time that pain comes up, you address the child. So, like, if Gabby were to start crying, you wouldn't be like, oh, let me go call Bailey, right? You'd be like, Gabby's crying. Like, I needed to address my daughter.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So, when the withdrawals come up, you got to be like, oh, I got to go attend to my inner child.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I've been forgiving myself a lot, like verbally, and I've done that before, but it didn't hit the same as now. Like, I'm sorry, Tim. I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. I forgive you. I love you. And I've been. That's like my mantra. Every time I'm having these like withdrawals. I'll drive to the sauna, and while I'm
Well,
driving to the sauna, I'll
especially when the pain comes up, because if you really lean into that pain, a lot of it is shame, guilt, anger, rejection, right? And these are the things we're trying to avoid, which is why we move into the addictive pattern. We're like, I don't want to feel this. Let me go over here, right? So it's really important because the kid got left hanging feeling ashamed. So it's your job to be like, I am so sorry that I made you feel like you were not worthy or you know that you're bad or something. You're not. You're amazing. Like you have to go in and recondition him and show him that you are now his his adult that's going to take care of him. I remember one time doing this work in real time with my mom. We were getting ready to go on a family trip to Israel. And like I had suitcases. I had like small ones and then I had like massive ones. My mom had the perfect brand new light suitcase. And I was like, can I use that suitcase? So I go over there to see if I can use it. And she was like, I don't know, I think Taylor's going to use it. And I'm just like, of course. Of course, the grandkids would always take precedence over me. Like, not only was I last in line with my siblings, but I'm last in line behind 15 grandkids too. Go figure. And so I was like, well, of course. And then she does what she does because she's a narc and she goes from 0 to 100 in a split second. And well, I did, and just goes off. So then I'm like, oh, great. I lit the fire and here it's burning. Shit. Okay, here we go again. And I said, why do you always got to do that? Like, why do you always, and I talked her down finally and got her to calm down. And I said, don't you understand? Like when I'm trying to, like I started bringing up old stuff. And I was like, don't you understand when I'm trying to talk to you or what I need? And the reason I don't like confronting you is because of this, and I don't feel safe. It was so funny, Tim. I'm sitting there across from this woman who is the ultimate perpetrator in my life and the source of 99% of my fucking wounds. And I'm looking at her and my inner child, I could hear this voice inside going, no, abort, let's leave, get out of here, don't talk to her. No, we're not doing this. Oh my God. I can hear this voice inside like, she's not safe. We gotta go.
Yikes.
And I'm hearing this voice from deep inside me, and I literally was like, I got you. She can't hurt you anymore. It's fine. You're safe. I'm going to talk to her now. And that's the power of reparenting and doing inner child work.
Hmm.
And I did. And I directed that conversation because when we feel vulnerable and we act out, guess who's not present? You. The adult leaves the room, the child takes over and it's like, oh my God, we're here again. And it starts flailing. I need a cigarette. I need weed. I need Bailey. Just that child takes over because they don't have that connection. They don't have that stability. They don't have it.
it's it's
Oh,
it's
wait.
even it's even more challenging because I quit smoking pot, and that was linked to her also, and the sexual cravings that it was like the pot, the sex, the intensity, the chaos, all combined, and then it's like the dopamine was hits were so intense. It lasted a couple weeks. Next thing you know, I'm just like completely depleted. Her and I would just be laying around on the couch, like, this is what is this? And that's when we would like get bored of each other, and I would intuitively be like, you know what? I think you need to go like stay at your mom's for a while. But she would always like go chasing after other guys. It's like she never takes a break. If I'm not there and she's not here sleeping over, she's actively finding someone else to hang out with or get that fix from. And that was such an issue in the relationship too, because I'd be like, let's just take a break. Like, just go stay with your mom for like 3 or 4 days. Like we'll still stay together. Like, but we need some time apart. And then I find out that she goes and sleeps with a couple other guys, like not just one, two, three, like. And then I would get super hurt, and another layer of my boundary would just get crushed.
As a kitty
And
cat.
and it got to the point where it didn't matter what she did, how many people she slept with in the time apart. Like even if we were still in a relationship, like I'm like, Bailey, we're not broken up. Like we're still in a relationship. Just go stay with your mom for a couple of days. Didn't matter. She'd go sleep with someone else. And then it would hurt me so bad because I would find out it's like she purposely didn't delete the text messages, and then I would get angry and resent her, and then I would start treating her like shit, and I would call her awful things, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry I did that. And then I noticed that pattern. It was like I would belittle her, judge her, I call her every name in the book, and then she'd start crying, and then a day later or that same day or a couple days later, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. Do you want to come over? And it was like this. Come to find out that um, extreme like um, attitude towards her. I called it the monster. I started calling it the monster because the side of me that I mean, you know me for a long time, Paige. Like I'm a pretty awesome person. I'm like there's no anger in me. I'm super soft. I'm a very gentle person, but this persona would come out during that cycle, and I started calling him the monster. I'm like, I don't even know where this guy comes from, but it was like this fight or flight mechanism. Every time she would hurt me, I would become the monster, and then the monster would calm down, and then I'd be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I acted like that. Here, come here. Oh, love, 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 and then it's just a matter of time before the same cycle would happen again. Something would trigger her, like jealousy, or I don't know. I would follow somebody on Instagram or like a female's post, and she would justify anything with going and cheating, and it was like, and I'm like, wait, you cheated on me again for what? She's like, oh, you like that girl's post. I'm like,
Well, and the
what?
thing is, the bottom line is, Tim, that's not love.
No, not at all.
It's not love. And I know people will talk themselves into, like, no, I really loved them. And not to say that you didn't. I don't want to down play everyone's feelings. But
I love the
like
fantasy of her.
I was gonna say, like, would you do that with your daughters?
No,
That kind of push-pull shit, you know what I mean? Would you no, because you love them and you want to protect them and you want to
right.
they're safe and stable. And so why we decide that this over here is acceptable and okay and it's still love. No, it's not. Like it's not.
Yeah.
The lesson to get you to wake up and take certain actions. And like I said on the phone yesterday, the only reason people like this come into our life in such a big way is because we have to learn how to love ourselves. I mean, that's really the long and the short of why these people show up. It's like you're not getting it in other ways. And really like loving yourself, a self-love practice will supersede anything in your life.
Yep. And that's why every time I would kick her out, I would get right back to work. I would get right back to the gym, back to yoga, back to meal prepping, back to eating right, and I'd feel great. But then the withdrawals would kick in, and I'd be like, "Oh, this time I can make it work. I can make it work." And she identified that pattern too. She's like, "Tim, I don't think I'm good for you." I think after like 6 months or 7 months of this really toxic cycle, she started seeing that like I think we should just split up because every time we get back together, you completely fall off track. But then once I leave, you just magically start doing everything you're supposed to do. And I'm like, oh, I can do that while you're here. And I every single time she would move back in, oh yeah, I can do that while you're here. I can do that while you're here. And it's never worked. I've never got back on track while she was living with me.
Yeah, no, definitely, because she showed up in your life to teach you this particular lesson.
Yeah. And I've completely come to terms with that. So every time I start in the last like week or last couple of days, and I should say, every time I get that withdrawal, I'm like, no, the universe is, I'm listening now. She was sent for one specific reason, and one reason only is to wake me the F up and get me to become this new, better version, this healed version, the one that pushed her away at first because I was just more in tune and on track. It's like the longer it takes me to get back on track, the more susceptible I am, because as soon as I'm crushing again and making good money again, and I got a month or two of active gym and yoga and work, it's so easy for me to be like, Bailey, who?
Well,
Wait,
but
you missed me? No.
the other thing is, and I think that this is important to point out, when we're trying to create real change, especially on a cellular level, the withdrawal is the body trying to pull you back into the old pattern, obviously. And you can feel like you're on your A game 1 second and the next moment
Yeah.
creeps in. Like you're not free. That's why I say
No.
don't resist the withdrawal, anticipate the withdrawal. Be ready for it as like the adversary. Like because the more you're ready for it, the more you diffuse it. But if
Yeah.
you're in resistance to it, it has more power over you.
Mm.
So the more you can be like, it's probably going to happen again, but I'm ready for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've never taken that, assume the withdrawal, like assume that it's coming. It's like, oh,
No,
I
like,
boarded up my windows for the storm that's coming. uh
well, when I went through my withdrawal, so I was addicted to my own despair my whole life until I broke up with it, and it took 2 years. I was 23 when I started. It took 2 freaking years to break up with it. And I couldn't trust my own emotional state. So for 2 years, I wouldn't let myself give into any emotional pain because I couldn't trust myself to differentiate between the addiction and legitimate sadness. So
mm,
it's like, I just can't even go there at all because I need to retrain my body to not be addicted to this. I did. I cried over everything. I was like suicidal for many years. And so I did. I had to go through withdrawals. And I remember because I was cocktailing at the time, I was young. And I remember literally having to like go lock myself in a bathroom stall at work for like 20 minutes to breathe through the withdrawals. Like it was intense. And I just remember thinking, I got to anticipate this. I don't know when it's going to end. And then the withdrawals changed from heavy despair to just fucking anger. And I was like, oh, you little bitch, you're a backdoor to get me to fall into despair. Like you're tricky. You know what
mm,
I mean? So then I couldn't trust any of my feelings literally for 2 years because I would just fall right back into this addictive pattern because it was a cellular thing.
mm.
So, and that's the thing. It's like, we can will it all we want. We can think, oh yeah, I got this. But the bottom line is if your cells are still going for that fix, man, you're not in control until you've pushed through enough withdrawals to where the cell receptors have no choice but to just choose differently. So
Yep. Just time, and we're resisting the withdrawal. But now I have all these tools. I call people. I got the sauna. I got a membership at the EOS Fitness that's
you're
closer to
going
my
to start
house.
practicing self-love and reparenting too.
Yeah, that too.
You are really resistant to those too. Your energy changes when
Well,
we talk
it's a
about
new
them.
concept.
You're
It's
like,
a new
what?
concept.
You're like, anyway. This is the subtle energy I'm reading off of Tim. He's like, anyway, talk about something else.
Yeah, no. Speaking to my inner child is something new. I I
I
didn't know
get
you could
the
actually
sense,
do
I
it.
get the sense that you're ashamed of how you've treated him, and that's
Oh
okay.
yeah, I
That's
had to
okay.
grieve.
Yeah, that's okay. But it's time to go in and repair that. Like it's so rewarding. For a while, I remember when I was doing the work regularly, because I just was like, I love this tool. It's so much better than any other tool I've ever had in my box. I would have a play date with my inner child every day. That was my meditation. So for 15, 20 minutes every day, that was my meditation. I would go in and picture myself picking up my inner child, and would do whatever she wanted to do for 15, 20 minutes that day. Like we would go on a play date. It did so much repair, so much repair. It's insane. Like I can't remember the last time that I was actually like a victim of a power struggle. Like it's been like a decade. Like I just don't have a need for external validation. I don't seek out boys. I don't seek out approval from higher ups, like none of that. Like I just don't. Like I just focus on that relationship with myself and doing that. Like I did that for like a few years and it was so powerful. Like it really was the foundation for my strength at this point in life.
Yeah. And I'm not just kicking this this trauma bond. I'm like finally putting the marijuana to rest, and alcohol wasn't really an issue uh, too much in the last couple of years. It's always like been I could actually have one out with friends and not drink a six pack. Um, but it's yeah, like finally putting the alcohol and the pot and the sexual addiction to rest, and it's not to, I mean, to rest for now, but the pot and alcohol for sure. My goal is to just never to drink or smoke again, but it's like my men's team says, like, Tim, just never say never, because then you're gonna disappoint yourself
No,
if you
it's
do.
not about, it's really not even about never. It's again, there's that nuance, right? We want to get to a point where these things don't have power over us.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? Like, and when you do these other practices, you get to a point like I had a drink in Florida. That was the first drink that I had since El Salvador.
mm,
Of course, I'm going to enjoy a drink every once in a while. But am I going to do it every day? God, no. You know what I mean? Because that would totally clash with my foundation, my values, my principles, my health. Like, wouldn't do it. One thing that might incentivize you is you're over 40 now, right? So it's like you might want to focus on the health part simply because as we get older, if you don't, you just set yourself up for disease. So you might want to take that into consideration as a way to kind of resist if that's what it takes in the moment.
yeah, I'm just completely shut off to any form of dating, whether it's recreational or not.
Hey, well,
Yeah,
if you meet someone you like, please call me first. Want to make sure.
yeah. I think I texted you the other day. Remember?
Yeah, you did actually. So, Tim, I'm really happy that I was able to have this conversation with you because I feel like it's incredibly relatable. And like I said, it's not my focus as a coach I don't do dating. I don't do this genre specifically, but
Yeah.
like
It's a good
interpersonal.
it was a good time because usually from 7 to 10 p.m. is when the withdrawals kick in the most, because I would get off work at 6, I'd pick her up at 7, would be back by 7:30, and usually should be here just validating me, and we would be wasting each other's energy. So the withdrawals really kick in later on in the day, and I'm not a big TV person. I've just been talking to Chat GPT a lot, figuring myself out, and
I'm not a TV person either, but one thing I do enjoy is I enjoy Italian, and so I do Netflix in Italian. And I do enjoy that.
maybe I'll
It
start
forces
watching
me to
shows in
watch it.
Spanish.
Yeah, it forces me to watch it because I'm like, okay, and I dub it. It's all like you hear it in Italian, you see it in Italian with the subtitles, and it forces me to absorb it. That's one thing I like to do.
That's a
So
good idea. I'm gonna start doing that with Spanish.
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for
Thank you, Paige. You're the
the
best. I appreciate it.
tip.
Hopefully,
And
somebody learns some things from this video, because very powerful information and very
it's
powerful
so
addiction.
common. It's so common. And most people when they're trying to break a pattern like this, they go on the defense, but that keeps you entangled. And that's why it's like it's important to have these conversations because you don't want to be on the defense because that just keeps you in the struggle.
I can't tell you how many people in the last 6 months said I'm trauma bonded to her, and I was like, "What are you talking about? No, I'm not. I just love her to death. I'll do anything for her." And like the amount of the lack of boundaries that it just dwindled to nothing. Like the respect, she got to a point where, like, yeah, nothing she could have done I wouldn't have forgiven or taken her back for. And even my ex-wife was like, yeah, Tim, I deal with the same thing. My therapist said that I'm to the point now where it doesn't matter what they do or how much they hurt you, you'll just keep taking them back.
Hmm.
And I was in denial for a bit, and then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, she just went and slept with like 4 different guys in a week. Gross. But then I'm like, hey, do you want to come over? Like, and that I didn't know what I was doing to my self-worth and my self-respect by allowing that. And it wasn't like that when I first met her. I've yeah, when she first came back after that 2 weeks that I pushed her away and she resurfaced 9 months later, um, any disrespect I wouldn't tolerate. I'm like, what? No, go to your mom's. But then it's like it just kept dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and yeah, I was grieving. Like the past week, I was grieving a lot of my own lack of boundaries. Like, well, how could I do that to myself? Like, Tim, you need to grieve for yourself. Like how you just let this shit happen in your um yeah. I just let it slide, you know. I let a lot of stuff slide. Like, no, that's very damaging. But anyway, I think it's
It's a
time for
process.
what?
It's a process.
Yeah, it's definitely a process. I'm gonna go cry, Paige. Right now.
Well, Tim, I appreciate you joining me this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll talk soon.